Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at some new fans from our good friends over at Inwin. This is the Inwin Neptune DN120 Pro. This is a new set of fans out from them, which is available in a 120, hence the DN120, and also a 140mm version, so the DN140 Pro. These are exceptionally good fans. I've had the pleasure of testing these today on my rig, and you're probably wondering why, if we're talking about Inwin fans, do we have some Noctua stuff here? Well, the simple reason is because I've been testing this against a similarly priced rival, which is arguably the best fan on the market. That's this one here. That's the NF F12, which is an absolutely legendary fan, which has been around for ages now, in various different versions, including the slightly weird looking beige and brown version, also the Chromax versions, etc. And it is a very highly regarded fan. About the same price at the moment in the UK and elsewhere in the US. You're looking at somewhere around about $22 for this if you're purchasing it outside of the UK. In the UK, about £20, and the same goes for this. We're looking at somewhere around about £20, €20, depending where you're shopping. You can pick these up from Inwin's own store. We'll stick links for those in the video description so you can check them out at your leisure and see what the local pricing is like. I will say as well, this has been sent to us free of charge for review purposes from Inwin. They've not asked us to say anything, to basically just take a look at it, see what we think, and give a honest review. So that's exactly what we're going to do, and you've probably got the idea already. This thing is fantastic, excuse the pun. It does an exceptionally good job. So in this review today, we're going to go through, do a quick unboxing, show you what we get. We'll also take a look at performance. Now, in terms of performance, for those of you that are wondering, this is a static pressure fan, which means it's optimized for static pressure, i.e. having something behind it or in front of it. So I've been testing this with an actual cooler. So this is the Noctua NHU12S, which we're using with an AM5 setup with a Ryzen 5 7700X. It runs really, really well, and we'll give you some temperature and performance comparisons a little bit later on. And then at the end of the video, we'll come back with my final thoughts. But again, you can probably guess already, this thing's great, it really is. But obviously it is only in black. So if you do want RGB, there is another version of the Neptune fans with RGB, which we've seen previously in review, actually attached to a radiator. That is the AN120s. I'll put links for those in the video description as well. So if RGB is your thing, you can check those out also. So first of all, let's do the unboxing and go through the specifications. So again, Neptune DN120 Pro fan, available 120, 140. I'll be spieling off the 120 stats. If you want the 140 stats, head over to the website, links in the video description. So silent pro grade pressure fan. We're looking at a rotational RPM. This is actually something which is very cool. 0 to 2200 RPM. So that's a massive, massive PWM range. And they've actually improved the PWM sensor or chip, whatever you want to call it, on this particular model. There is a DN120, which isn't quite as good in terms of PWM range. The Pro version gives you more flexibility and that desirable 0 dB if you so wish. It also has a new 3-pole motor in there, so that is a very nice thing to have. Nice and strong, really well built. Magnetic casing as well. You've also got a brass pole in the middle to soak up any of that kind of spindle vibrations and any slack in there. You've also got a sealed fluid dynamic bearing. So there's lots of new technology in this. Again, head over to the website. I'll probably put up some B-roll from this from their site to explain it and so you can see it all exploded view. Obviously, we don't have the facilities to do that. So anyway, let's get on and take a look and see what is actually inside. And what we do, we'll talk about some more of the specifications. So when it comes to the actual static pressure on this, you're looking at 2.86 H2O, which is yeah, pretty high. And when it comes to the CFMs, we're looking at just over 60 CFM. So I think it's 60.86. So it'll be on the screen below anyway, so you can check it out for yourself. So unboxing, one of the things you're gonna notice straight away is the weight of this thing. It's really heavy. 250 grams, basically kind of like 0.5 of a pound. So yeah, pretty weighty fan. It's got a little bit of heft to it. Using a resin blend for the actual frame, you've got rubber dampeners around the outside corners. Possibly something you're going to notice straight away is the fact that one of the corners has a red dampener on it. The reason behind this is the Pro version. If you buy the DN120, the non-Pro version, this is black. So this is just one of those little kind of accent colors. If you're someone who's owned a Panasonic camera or something similar over the years, you'll know that every now and then brands do that. They just add a little splash of color just to signify this is the kind of the premium version. And in Inwin's case, that is exactly what they've done. Now I'll show you some pictures actually. You can see the fans actually on the PC behind me. I'll show you some pictures of this actually installed close up, so you can see what it's like. If you are going to be using this on a CPU cooler or a radiator, depending obviously which direction it's facing, there's a chance you're not going to be able to see the red anyway. Or if you want to, you can choose to have it as somewhat of a highlight. Now, along with it being extremely heavy and very well constructed, they've also put their money where their mouth is. So with this, you're getting a TBF, or total time that is basically designed to last for 60,000 hours. So that is just over 6 years. And on top of which, they do actually include a 6-year warranty with these as well. So that's a pretty impressive warranty for what is effectively a relatively inexpensive fan. So yeah, all well and good. The design wise, really like it. You've got the enclosed willow weave, or willow, it does say on the back actually, silenced by Wicker bill blades. That's really hard to say. So I'm just going to call them Wicker blades from now on. So yeah, the Wicker style blades, they seem to do a very good job. They have actually enclosed at the end as well, so you don't lose any of that static pressure on the outside edge where you've got the gap between the fan blades and the outer frame. So the outer frame is part of the actual fan blade assembly itself, so that keeps the static pressure nice and high. When it comes to cable management and cabling, these are designed with a pass-through nature. So if you're planning on putting maybe 2 or 3 of these together on a radiator or at the front of your PC for airflow, or maybe the top for exhaust, whatever you want to do, they are daisy chainable, so there's a PWM there, it's also braided. There is a pretty short cable on there, so you're looking at about 100mm for the cable there, but don't worry, they've got you covered. There is an extension included as well, which we'll get to shortly. But essentially that is pretty much it. When it comes to flex, there is not a lot. The rubber on the ends flexes, obviously, because it's for sound dampening, etc. But yeah, it's an extremely rigid design. On the back, you can see they have got the Neptune logo on there and all the information, etc. Really nice design as well. All of it has been really well thought out and manufactured, hence why it performs so bloody well. So what else do we get in the package? Well, you get an extension lead as well. 1/2 meter extension cable there. So depending where you need to go, obviously you only need one of these if you're daisy chaining them, because you can just take one cable off. So you can have up to 3 or 4 of these connected together and just have one cable going to your motherboard or to a hub or something like that. The next part is something which is a little bit on the strange side, if I'm completely honest with you. So this is the fixings. Now normally when you buy a fan, you're used to just getting like a little plastic baggie with 4 normal screws. This is a little bit different. So it's very much along the Noctua line, so really nicely presented. But what you've got is 3 options here. So if you're using it as just a traditional case fan, then you get 6 screws included, 4 that you would use, 1 in each corner, plus 2 spares, which we'll get onto that shortly, why you might need spares. You also get 2 different lengths of screw, which actually are designed to go through radiators. So there's one for 30mm and there's one for 32mm. So one's got a little bit more thread on it and is very slightly longer. So if you are going through a slightly thicker rad, then you have screws to go in. So you get 4 of those included, of both sizes on there. So even if you've got a really chunky rad on there, it should be absolutely fine. Or if you're trying to go through a certain depth. When it comes to the 6 screws, now the screws, this is actually something which is very unusual. I've not seen this before. Going back to the actual dampening section, so if we take a closer look inside of this, rather than usually, this is just like some solid plastic which you put your screws in and it cuts its own thread, and after a while, if you keep on taking them in, taking them out, eventually the plastic wears away and they're kind of useless and the screws just spin around forever. These actually have got a brass insert with a thread on them, which is actually quite hard to see, but I'll try and get you some close-up B-roll of that so you can actually see what it's like. But there is actually a threaded section in each one of these. And that is the reason why you get 6 of the normal case fan screws, because it is threaded. It is actually a different thread. I'll get you some close-ups as well of the screw against a traditional case screw, and I'll try and get one which is silver or something to contrast. So the black one is going to be the finer thread, which is designed to go with these Inwin fans, and it is absolutely gorgeous. You can just screw the threads in to the fan and it just works lovely. You don't have to worry about cutting that first thread, which is a real pain and gives you wrist ache if you're doing like a whole bunch of fans. It's absolutely excellent. So I'm very pleased with that. It is a little bit of a pain in the backside because it's a nice thing with PC case fans to have them all using the same type of screws. So they have kind of gone off on their own little way on this, but personally I think it's actually a really good idea because I'm fed up of them actually breaking and damaging, and sometimes the threads aren't quite as well made as you'd like. So this is actually really nice. to have a nice thread on there. So that is basically it, I think, for the unboxing process. Again, we'll just take a look at now some of the performance in conjunction with the Noctua NHU12S. This again is on my Ryzen 5 77X platform, which is just behind me here. So I think let's get straight in and take a look at some of the results. And actually, before we do that, I'll quickly go through the fan settings. So in terms of the system fan settings, I've set those as you can see on the screen right now. Also, when testing, I made it so that it was open as possible. So I took the side panel off the PC and the top panel. So I didn't want any of the fans or any restrictions in the case itself to be a factor in the testing. So it's essentially it's an open platform, but we're still getting some extra airflow going through to cool VRMs, etc., etc. So that was fine. When it comes to the actual CPU fan characteristics, so we've gone with the usual MUB setup here. So 20% at 20 degrees, 40% at 40 degrees, 60% at 60 degrees, and when we get to 70 degrees, then we're at 100% fan speed. So effectively, you're going to see it go into 100% because this processor is going to go much higher than that anyway. So with all that said, let's go on and take a look at the results. So with the NF F12 fan against the DN120 Pro, we're looking at the lowest temperature recorded on the NF F12 after our Cinebench loop of 5 minutes. We're looking at 40 degrees Celsius for Noctua, and the Inwin has surpassed that quite nicely. I'm glad it's more than 1 degree, otherwise that's margin of error. But we did get 38 degrees Celsius, so that's a 2-degree win. When it comes to the highest recorded temperatures, things have pretty much remained the same. So it seems to be doing well all the way through the actual ranges there. So with the Noctua, we've got 92 degrees Celsius, and with the Inwin, we've got 90 degrees Celsius. So that's pretty good. So definitely a win at both ends, lowest recorded temperature and highest recorded temperature. Even though it's only 2 degrees Celsius, 5-minute Cinebench run on one of these coolers with this processor, if it's going to run out of control temp-wise, you're going to see it straight away. So temperature-wise, we know exactly where we stand, but how does that actually mean anything when it comes to performance? So let's take a look at the actual scores. So the NF F12 scored 17,852 points, and massively surprisingly, but I'm very glad it did, the Inwin DN120 Pro scored a whopping 19,137 points. So we're looking at a deficit here of, or a difference between the two, of almost 1,300 points. Normally when we do these sorts of tests, you see the odd thing where sometimes you get maybe, I don't know, a couple of hundred or maybe 1,000 if you're lucky, but 1,300 points difference in effectively exactly the same system. And in terms of, you might be thinking, well, maybe there's something running in the background, or maybe after a reboot it was different. Literally all I did was unclip the fan with the system running. I know you shouldn't really do that, but then put on the other fan and run exactly the same test again after it got down to its lowest temperature. So it is as like for like as I can possibly do. No apps were opened or closed or anything. Literally run Cinebench, and recorded the differences between them. So I'm extremely pleased. These days, it's very hard as someone who reviews or unboxes products to actually feel overwhelmingly positive about a product, because there's always going to be some kind of negative issue, whether it's the price, whether it's performance, or whether it's just not enough of a difference to actually make it worth doing. But I'm really pleased to say that in this particular instance with the Inwin Neptune DN120 Pro, it is a significant difference. They basically made what I believe is an absolutely cracking fan, which looks sexy as hell, doesn't cost an absolute fortune, and competes really, really well with the market leaders, and basically, well, betters them as well. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this indeed. The only thing I would say as a very, very slight negative, where they are in the market, obviously Noctua are essentially the market leaders for all intents and purposes. I would have loved to have seen this come in at just a few pounds less, just to give you that extra little thing. It's like, yes, we know it performs better, we know the RPMs are better, and actually something which I haven't mentioned at all is the noise profile. This is touted as a silent fan, and I can certainly say that there. I would say actually the NF12F is slightly louder, more so at the top end. At the top end, I think both of them are similar, but definitely the Noctua I could certainly hear. But this thing, when it's just running normally anywhere up to about 70–80%, you don't know it's on. You really don't. There's no noise to it at all. There's no vibration going through the fans or through the rotor or anything. It's great. And even at 2,200 RPM, which is its highest speed, all you can hear is a little whoosh of air. It is absolutely great. I would strongly suggest, if you can and you get the opportunity, to check them out. Hopefully, after the initial launch price of the fans, I'm hoping they do drop a few pounds. I think that would make it a really deciding victory. At the moment, with the prices being really comparable and Noctua having that brand name to ride on, I think it is one of those things where you do slightly have to weigh it up. But yeah, if it was a couple of pounds cheaper, these would be an absolute no-brainer. So hopefully they will drop in price very shortly after launch. Anyway, there's my thoughts on the Inwin Neptune DN120 Pro. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly had a blast making it, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, smash the like button if you want to see more content like this on a daily basis. Hit the subscribe button and the chime notification, and you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.